Tonight, we're exposing a silent invasion. It's happening right under our noses. Chinese interests are buying up America's heartland at an alarming rate. And until now, nobody has had the courage to stop it. But that's all changing. President Trump has just announced unprecedented action to block foreign acquisition to our farmland, and the details are stunning. We've uncovered documents showing just how deep the infiltration goes, strategic purchases near military installations, critical infrastructure, and America's most productive agricultural regions. The Chinese Communist Party thought they could quietly buy America piece by piece, but they didn't count on one thing. Trump's return to the White House. And as we witness China's aggressive moves to acquire American farmland, one thing becomes clear. They are preparing for economic warfare. The CCP knows something many Americans don't, that real assets like land and precious metals are the true measure of wealth. And while they're buying our farmland, they're also stockpiling gold at record rates. Why? Because they understand that whoever holds the gold makes the rules. That's why I trust Noble Gold Investments to protect my wealth. Visit nextnewsgold.com today and secure your financial future with gold and receive 10 1-ounce silver American Eagle coins with a qualified account. That number on the screen, 877-646-5347. Write it down, give them a call, tell them Gary Franchi sent you. Okay, let's get right into it. This is all happening just 25 minutes ago. This just broke. We've got this. President Trump's pursuit of peace in Ukraine. Yes, international relations are starting to show that they know President Trump is the new sheriff. Listen in.
Are you optimistic that there is going to be an end game here, that the negotiation works?
The plan that I've seen that President Trump has, I think he could win the Nobel Peace Prize for this. If it were fairly awarded, I think in a year he should get it from what I've seen.
Are you optimistic that there is going to be an end game here, that the negotiation works?
The plan that I've seen,
Nobel Peace Prize for President Trump. Yeah, I can see that happening. And then we got this 50 minutes ago. This is a post from President Trump's Truth Social. The country of Iran has shut down. New York Times reporting a gas shortage so severe that the government has chose between using its dwindling gas supply to run the country's power plants or heat people's homes. It shows the latter, which means the country is not protecting electricity. The presidential compound has no lights. Food and medical production facilities are shut. Factories have ground to a halt. Business, schools, universities, police stations, supermarkets, and government offices are all shut. 17 electricity plants have been shut down. This is what President Trump just posted moments ago on his Truth Social account. And then we have this Caroline Leavitt posting this 3 hours ago. Promises made, promises kept. President Trump just signed an executive order to expand access to IVF. The order directs policy recommendations to protect IVF access and aggressively reduce out-of-pocket and health plan costs for such treatments. Remember the narrative that they were pushing during the campaign? Oh, President Trump's going to block access to reproductive health, and he's going to take women's rights away, and he's going to destroy families. Well, he just signed an order that contradicts everything that they've been claiming. Of course, he did also say it on the campaign trail, but the mainstream media completely ignored it and gaslit America. But we still won. We got Senator Katie Boyd Britt. Thank you, POTUS. Yet another promise kept. IVF is profoundly pro-family. I'm proud to work with President Trump on ensuring more loving parents can start and grow their families. She was quote tweeting the new press secretary, Stephen Miller, talking about just how exciting that he wants to be about that we're saving billions of dollars, ending theft and waste and grift. Listen.
The American people are exhausted and tired of watching their tax dollars be corruptly spent, abused, wasted, and in every sense robbed and stolen from them. This president, for the first time in history, is committed to restoring accountability at every level of the federal government. You may assert there's no waste in the Pentagon. You may assert there's no waste in
Stephen,
Treasury.
I'm not
you may
asserting,
assert there's no waste in HHS.
Stephen. Stephen, I don't think anyone...
Then why are you not celebrating these cuts? If you agree there is waste, if you agree there is abuse, if you agree there is corruption, why are you not celebrating the cuts, the reforms that are being instituted? Every day that no action is taken, the entire
Stephen, let's calm
salaries
down.
of American workers that are taxed disappear forever.
Stephen, let's calm down.
This is
we're
not
having a debate.
There's no reason
about whether there are
places. You are clearly trying to debate me, and I will be as excited as I want to be about the fact that we are saving Americans billions of dollars, that we are ending the theft and waste and grift and corruption, that we are stopping American taxpayer dollars from subsidizing a rogue federal bureaucracy that has been relentlessly weaponized against the American people.
Okay,
you
Stephen,
may not care about
I'm
this
not
issue.
Talking about
your colleagues may
whether
not care about
there's
this
not
issue,
an area
but we care
to
about this
cut in
issue. The
government. I
American
understand
people
that,
care about
Stephen.
this issue.
They also care about privacy.
And the American
so let me
public
ask you about
overwhelmingly.
They also care about privacy. Yeah. Listen, the government's had access to all of our information forever. So when they try to tell you that Elon Musk suddenly has access to millions of social security numbers, he wants everyone's tax returns, they're just fear mongering. Okay. What we should be doing is exactly what Stephen Miller is saying. We should be celebrating it all. Okay. And he's getting excited. We should all be getting excited about this. But CNN's like, oh, sir, you better calm down. Calm down. Okay. Calm down. CNN is just making up stuff as they normally do. We've got more Bill Mitchell. Trump is going to get the deal done. If he can bring peace to this war-torn region, he does deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. BRICS News. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov says negotiations with the United States and Saudi Arabia were a success. Well, we definitely need to bring peace to Ukraine and Russia and just turn off that money spigot that is only feeding the military-industrial complex. And then we have this from Senator Kennedy. Democrats must try harder not to suck.
In terms of the Democrats, I've got a lot of friends who are Democrats, and they haven't asked me for advice, but if I did, I'd tell them, look, you just got to try harder not to suck. I mean, think about it. Over the past 4 years, the Democrats mismanaged Congress, they mismanaged COVID, they mismanaged the economy, they mismanaged inflation, they mismanaged the national debt, they mismanaged Afghanistan. More recently, in their opposition to President Trump and Mr. Musk, the Democrats have chosen to support the bureaucrats and the spending porn over the American taxpayer, just like they support illegal immigration over the rule of law, just like they support transgender athletes over women's sports, just like they support Hamas terrorists over Israel. All Democrats are not like this, but the party is controlled right now by people who majored in online activism with a minor in puberty blockers. I know these people. They think men can breastfeed. They're triggered by race. They cry if you use the wrong pronoun. And most fair-minded Americans look at this and they go, these people are about 10 exits past normal.
Oh my God.
And that's what's killing the Democrats right now, in my opinion.
I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt this. Keep going.
No, I'm done.
Okay, spending porn, and they got to try harder not to suck. And I can't keep up. One question people ask me about you, they like, is this extemporaneous from Senator Kennedy, or does he actually think this out ahead of time? Does this just flow naturally for you?
About 5 minutes before an interview, my staff knows to leave me alone. And if I know the topic, I start thinking about, I've got maybe 4 minutes, and I start thinking about how I'm going to frame it. Sometimes I say things that I shouldn't, but as I've told you before, God made me, and God gave me the right to remain silent, but not the ability.
Oh, man. Oh, I love Senator Kennedy, man. He is a treasure. Okay, check this out. Benny Johnson, 6 hours ago, the GOP members of the task force on the declassification of federal secrets has now been announced. We reported on this maybe about a week or so ago. Representative Anna Paulina Luna is leading the charge. Representative Nancy Mace is now on that committee. Tim Burchett, Lauren Boebert, Eric Burleson, Eli Crane, and Representative Brandon Gill. Let's go back to that moment when it was announced.
Our intelligence allies. With the stroke of a pen, he committed to declassifying the files concerning the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. A decision not just monumental, but pivotal. It is with profound honor that I have been entrusted by Speaker Mike Johnson and Chairman James Comer to lead the House Oversight Task Force on Declassification of Federal Secrets. Together with the help of the White House, our intelligence allies, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, we will be conducting investigations into the following: the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UAPs, unidentified submerged objects, also known as USOs, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19, and the 9/11 files. This task force will be a beacon of bipartisanship. On the Republican side, Representatives Burchett, Boebert, Burleson, Crane, Gill, and Mace will be joining me, although I'd like to note that I'm expanding this to the entire governing body and will be allowing certain members to waive on. Our first hearing is set for March. The date will be announced soon, and we've already initiated close to a dozen communications with various agencies, to include Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice and the Secretary of State. This will no longer be a task force that makes bold promises only to fade into irrelevance or send strongly worded letters. This will be a relentless pursuit of truth and transparency, and we will not stop until the American people have the answers they deserve.
Let's go, baby.
We will cut through the bureaucracy, challenge the stonewalling, and ensure that the American people finally get the truth that they have been denied for too long. If we are to endure and thrive as a nation, we must restore trust through transparency. The American people must be trusted to think for themselves, to form their own judgments from the truth that they are entitled to know. We've been treated like children for too long and kept in the dark by those we elected to serve us. It is my solemn duty to begin mending this trust, to form a new relationship between the government and the governed. Let us embark on this journey together towards a government that does not serve, but one that enlightens. Does not just serve, but one that enlightens. Trust.
Amen. You know, I am so happy to hear what is like. It's all about to come out, man. All the secrets that we have been asking and begging and screaming for are all about to be revealed. And we also have this, the Patel cloture vote and the Iran threat update from Real America's Voice. The final vote is in 48 hours, with Patel possibly leading the FBI by Friday. Ending the Russia-Ukraine war needs individual negotiations before any collective agreements. Here's John Solomon on Real America's Voice.
Be the director of
the cloture vote is later this afternoon, followed, we assume, by a final vote. What do the numbers look like? Does he get by? What's your sense of it right now at this hour, John?
Yeah. Right now, the Senate has about 53 votes for him. That's the current plan. He'll get through the simple majority cloture vote tonight. He just needs 51 to get over, and then there'll be a final vote within 48 hours, and that will position him to put him into be the director of the FBI by Friday at the latest, I think, is what we're hearing. A big victory for Donald Trump, a big victory for the American people, because the FBI is one of those places that needs to be turned upside down and reorganized, refocused, their compass reset back on solving crimes and stopping terrorism and not trying to settle political scores.
John, at the top of the segment, our lead story was the ongoing situation there in Saudi Arabia involving peace talks over Ukraine and Russia. It is the story that the world is watching. There are so many interesting tentacles. Right now, Russia and the United States are sitting at the table. Ukraine is being told, let the adults talk, sit over in the corner. And then there's the European Union, which feels like it's being left out of the process entirely. How is all of this going to ultimately play out in your mind? It's interesting to see kind of all the different pieces move together here.
Yeah, This is the way traditional diplomatic negotiations occur. Let's go back to early January when President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, went to Israel only. He didn't meet with Palestinians or Hamas. He went to Israel only to make sure he understood what Israel needed to get the ceasefire deal done. No one objected to that solo conversation. Why? Because in negotiations, before you can bring the two sides together, you need to understand what each side believes are red lines, what they're willing to give up. And you can't do that when the other side's sitting in the room already arguing. And so there is nothing abnormal about the fact that the United States met with Russia alone today. There's nothing abnormal with Keith Kellogg this morning meeting just with the Europeans and leaving the Russians out. I don't see the media crying about that. At some point, all the sides will get together in a room and they will reach some sort of agreement, hopefully. But this is normal negotiation. You go to one side, then you go to the other side. You get to understand where they are, where they're bendable, where they're unmalleable, and then you bring them together and try to make a deal. By the way, in today's conversations, which are over now, they went 4 hours, there were other discussions about restoring American oil company contracts that were suspended 3 years ago when Russia invaded Ukraine. So there's U.S. interests that have nothing to do with Ukraine that are also on the table. This is the first bilateral negotiation that the U.S. has had with Russia, a nuclear superpower, in more than 3 years. Think about that.
The cloture vote is
more than 3 years. And in all that time, you have seen millions upon millions of dollars just continually funding the war. Never a talk of peace, only a talk of arming more and more bullets, more bombs, more tanks, more jets, and more lives and more blood. Why? It's because war is big business, and it's time to close that business down. And let's talk about peace, finally. We got this. This was 24 hours ago. Donald J. Trump posts from his Truth Social. This is what he said. Kash Patel will be confirmed as the new director of the FBI. James Comey is in a complete panic. Post a thumbs up in the comments if you support Patel, indicting indicting Comey for his fake Russia scandal and spying. Oh yeah, please indict. Did Comey get a pardon from Joe Biden?
All Americans.
When you think about a second Trump administration, what do you think the implications would be for the FBI?
Oh, serious, for the Justice Department and the FBI, because Trump is coming for those institutions. He knows their power, and I think he has regrets that he didn't work hard enough to corrupt them last time. So he's coming for them, and that's a danger for all Americans. He's going to put people in positions in those organizations. He didn't have all-stars the last time. He'll have the bottom of the barrel this time, but people who will want to do his will, and that should worry every American. This election matters. Because of a reason like that, people have to participate. You cannot sit on the sideline. I don't care how you feel about Joe Biden, you must vote for him because the consequences on the other side are too severe.
When you think about a second
Too
Trump
severe
administration.
for who, though? The consequences are too severe for you, Jimmy boy. That's what they did. That's why they were so afraid, because they knew accountability was on the way. Okay, so check this out. 6 hours ago, breaking news. Trump is exploring federal action to stop China from purchasing American farmland. I mean, how long have we been sounding the alarm about China buying up sensitive farmland around military installations? Well, now President Trump is on the case. Just in, President Trump seeks to ban China from purchasing American farmland. Real America's Voice. Democrats look weak and unorganized. Here is their mistake. The greatest mistake the left ever made was taking away the 2020 election from Trump. And this is Newt Gingrich, okay? We've said this time and time again, and I know you guys agree, right? Had they just not stolen the 2020 election, Donald Trump would be, he'd be out of office. And there'd be a completely new president, whether it be Republican or Democrat, of course, we don't know. And now President Trump had 4 years to plan his comeback. I mean, think about the strategic education that he received while he was in the Oval Office initially. 4 years to mellow in it, soak it in, understand his true executive power, find out who the rats were, the people who abandoned him when he was out, all the backstabbers, they all revealed themselves. And now he's surrounded himself with true America First patriots. I mean, this is all God's timing. And it is so perfect because God's timing is always perfect. I mean, just look what's happening to our own channel here. Let's check out what Newt Gingrich is saying.
Rollins, Trump is doing stuff I wouldn't have thought possible.
And what do you attribute that to? Because the first term, by this time in the first term, we had national security advisors resigning. We had the FBI spying. We had Russiagate. We had James Comey. We had Mueller on the horizon. Trump is permanently on offense, and the Democrat opposition looks weak, disorganized, disunified, dispirited. Why?
Well, I think historians will look back and say the greatest mistake the left ever made was taking the election away from Trump in 2020. Because what it did is it allowed him to spend 4 years thinking about what had gone wrong, thinking about lessons he'd learned as president. And at the same time, the left misunderstood the election, thought they had a mandate to go further and further left, to be truly weird. And the net effect was that you ended up, I think, with a country that was madder, sicker of the left, more ready for change. And thanks in part to the America First Policy Institute and the remarkable work of Linda McMahon and Brooke Rollins, there were some 400 people from the Trump administration who were actively preparing for a second administration. So when he got elected on the 7th of November, they already had, I think, 600 executive orders. They knew what they wanted to do. They knew who they trusted. It was totally different. Remember, in 2016, Trump had never run for public office. There was no Trump organization. MAGA was a movement, but it wasn't a structure. Now MAGA, all across America, there are huge numbers of people who think of themselves as MAGA and who are prepared to go out and work and help elect candidates who belong to make America great again. Totally different world than the world of 2016.
Isn't it, though? I mean, we've had 4 years to grow our movement, 4 years to cry for justice, 4 years to plan. And it's absolutely beautiful. I'm here for every moment. I know you guys are too. And we have more news to get to on this front. Here is just 5 hours ago, the press secretary, our beloved Caroline Leavitt, talking about this week's meetings between Secretary Rubio, Mike Waltz, and Steve Witkoff.
Today, this is a truly monumental step towards peace in the Russia-Ukraine war. At the direction of President Trump, Secretary Rubio, a special envoy Steve Witkoff, and our national security advisor Mike Waltz spoke to the Russians today and made significant steps towards peace. This is the first step of many. And I'd like to point out that our administration, including President Trump himself, has been in direct correspondence with the Ukrainians as well, including President Zelensky. President Trump also talked to our European allies yesterday. He had a phone call with France's President Emmanuel Macron. Next week, the Prime Minister of the UK will be here at the White House. And so we're ensuring that all parties are heard. But you have to speak to both sides of the war in order to truly negotiate a deal and problem solve. And this is a significant first step towards peace. Again, when the previous administration had no negotiations, no discussions, really no diplomacy in this effort, President Trump and his team are taking significant steps with just being here for 4 weeks. This is
4 weeks, baby. And America is changing faster than we could ever imagine. Okay, we've got more from the press secretary just 6 hours ago. Rapid response. She's talking about President Trump actually following through on the promise to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. Those are the three buzzwords that they like to throw around on the left and the right, but they never really actually do anything. They never really show us how they're going to do it. But, you know, President Trump has Elon Musk working in the background, sleeping on the floor with his Doge boys.
are up in arms about it, and they were promising the American people the very same things that President Trump promised the American people, won the election on, and now is actually delivering on. That's the only difference between what President Trump is doing and what these Democrats have promised the American people for decades. He's actually following through on the promise to cut federal government waste, fraud, and abuse. And this is the first president to actually do such a thing, and the Democrats are up in arms about it. But our country is going bankrupt, and President Trump is not going to sit back and allow it to happen.
Nope, he's not. And that is why they're exposing those three words: the waste, the fraud, and the abuse. Kash Patel, of course, we are waiting for that to happen. Happy President's Day to the GOAT. Yes, that was just yesterday. Let's check this out.
Yes. Tell them what I said. President Trump looked at the Taliban leader and said this: I want to leave Afghanistan, but it's going to be a conditions-based withdrawal. And translator translated. And he said...
Now, this is a great story because President Trump actually pulls out a picture of the Taliban leader's home and says, if you don't play by the rules, we're going to drop a Moab on your house. And that's when everything changed. Okay. Let's see what we have and check in on some more news from the Rubio front. This is, we got this. This is in Ukraine. What's going on there? Alex Vindman, this is from Gunter Eagleman, someone who has questionable ties to corruption in Ukraine, says it will be embarrassing for Elon if he tries to investigate him. Oh, yeah?
I just want to ask you something on a personal level as we wrap up. We have seen President Trump take steps to seemingly exact vengeance against people he perceives as enemies, taking away security for certain people, like John Bolton, for example, firing certain people from the government. I'm just wondering what it's like to be you right now. Do you worry at all that you could be a target?
Yeah, so I have the strange misfortune of being both on the Russian sanctions list and on the Trump enemies list. A little bit odd. I think the fact is that there's going to be a high degree of retribution. Some of these figures that are being selected, for instance, Kash Patel, who's likely to get a Senate vote this week, would be the Minister of Retribution and Retaliation. Am I concerned? Maybe on some level, yes, but I'm not going to shirk in my responsibilities to communicate on the areas that I think I could contribute to the policy making or the policy deliberations that are essential to secure U.S. national security interests. This book coming out.
Book coming out. Guess what? You should be very, very afraid. We have more from Secretary Rubio. This just posted 10 hours ago, talking about the conflict that has raged for so long, and it's now time for peace.
President Trump is in a position for 3.5 years while this conflict has raged, or 3 years while it's raged. No one else has been able to bring something together like what we saw today, because Donald Trump is the only leader in the world that can. So no one is being sidelined here. But President Trump is in a position that he campaigned on to initiate a process that could bring about an end to this conflict. And from that could emerge some very positive things for the United States, for Europe, for Ukraine, for the world. But first, it begins by the end of this conflict. And so the only thing President Trump's trying to do is bring about peace. It's what he campaigned on. It's something the world should be thanking President Trump for doing. He's been able to achieve what for 2.5, 3 years, no one else has been able to achieve, which is to begin this process, a serious process. Obviously, a lot of work remains before we have a result. But President Trump's the only one that can do it. For 3.5 years while this conflict has raged, or 3 years while it's raged, no one else has been able to bring something together like what we saw today.
Nobody has been able to bring something together like we saw today because President Trump knows how to negotiate. It's called The Art of the Deal. Yeah, maybe you should pick it up and read it. Okay, we've got more. What the president did not find unacceptable was the endless war in Europe. Here's more. This is Mike Walls.
So what the president did not find acceptable was an endless war in Europe. And that was literally has turned into a meat grinder of people on both sides. So If you just think about, just in a few months, President Trump has shifted the entire global conversation from not if the war is going to end, but just how it's going to end. And only President Trump can do that. And in the Oval Office less than a week ago, both President Putin and President Zelensky both said to him, only you, President Trump, could drive this war to a conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, he said he was going to end it on day one. We're in day 28, but guess what? It's all coming to an end. And here we have more. This is from, I'm talking about USAID, who bankrolled Ukraine media outlets. Here's Natalie Winters.
And to cover up make no mistake, 9 out of 10 media outlets in Ukraine were bankrolled by USAID or United States government funding. And I think that sort of shows you they were funding those media organizations not to do actual reporting, but to cover up the crimes, not just of Ukrainian leaders, but of their American counterparts too. And I think, Jack, you're correct. This idea that, by shuttering USAID, American soft power is going to just completely dissipate. Very much for the same paradigm that I think people are asking, well, do we abolish the DOE or do we try to reform it from within? Do we abolish this institution or do we try to reform it from within? And I think the abolition, the destruction of USAID, rightfully so, it sort of raises the question, can we even sort of reform the idea of what it means to be America abroad through the paradigm, through the lens of what the norm eyes of the globalist architects of the world have constructed, right? The very idea, the sheer idea of USAID, or do we have to sort of start from scratch? And I think that what you're seeing right now underway on the world stage is America actually using its muscle, not from some weird, perverse idea that we have to negotiate through the lens of equity and not flex our might. I think the idea that we can actually flex our economic hegemony, you see that with the tariffs. You see that with President Trump just sort of commanding the entire global stage when it comes to world affairs. But it's a paradigm shift. And it's a paradigm shift that the American people have wanted for a very long time, that they're now trying to gaslight us and call it a hostile takeover of the United States government.
It's ridiculous. But that's where we are. We've got undeniable evidence. Chinese entities have already acquired over 380,000 acres of American farmland, often through shell companies and hidden ownership structures. President Trump's decisive action today marks the beginning of a new era, not just in the Ukraine-Russia war, but also one where America's agricultural security is finally being protected. But here's what should keep you up at night. While we've caught some of these purchases, how many have actually slipped through? The Biden administration, their negligence has left our nation vulnerable. But Trump's team is already implementing new screening procedures and restrictions. So here is what we need you to weigh in on in the comments section. Should all current Chinese-owned farmland be forcibly sold back to American citizens? Or should existing purchases be grandfathered in? Share your thoughts in the comments below and suit up for the truth revolution with our exclusive MAG Avengers gear at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, because real patriots wear their values proudly.